I say what? Ho, this is Brian. Call me the lady who's sure all that glitters is gold, Gardner. Coming to you from the Devil's Hole, aka the subterranean studios of the Ramble on Towers in scenic Hespeler, Ontario. And you are listening to Ramble on Radio, episode 157. Ramble on Radio is the longest running Led Zeppelin podcast on this or any other known internet. You can subscribe to Ramble on Radio through iTunes and Google Play. Don't forget to leave a review. If you're in iTunes, if you're in Google Play, leave a quick review. Let other people know how you feel about the show. It helps other people find the show. It's also available on Podbean at I Am Brian Dammit. Podbean has their own mobile streaming app. You can listen on Stitcher Radio at verbal.com. And don't forget to check out and like the video at Ramble on Radio on YouTube. And again, like the video, it helps other people find it. The more people who like it, the more people who see it, the more people who find it. Also, be sure to like and follow Ramble on Radio on Facebook. Did I mention verbal? I mentioned verbal. Okay, that is. Oh, and one other thing. Share. I'll be posting on Facebook, on the Facebook page. I will be posting a link there, actually, I'll be posting the show, basically. Share that. Share it on social media. Share it with your friends. Tell your friends about it. It's the best way to grow the podcast. And we're looking to grow the podcast at this stage. So intro, that was still lovely, isn't it? Stairway to Heaven from Ulster Hall in Belfast, March 5th, 1971. The first ever time Stairway to Heaven was played in public. First time. That was 50 years ago this coming week. Stairway to Heaven is 50 years old. Think about that for a minute. That's really weird to me. 50 years old. And actually, it's our subject for the day. So we will be talking a bit about not Stairway to Heaven so much. Maybe I should have gone with that. But them playing in Belfast on that day. If you're on YouTube, you just see me have a drink. Tonight's beer of choice, by the way, is Wellington Brewer. No, sorry, not Wellington. Muskoka Breweries. Where's that thing? I can never figure out what the camera is. Hazed and Confused Icy IPA. Hazed and Confused. Not a big IPA fan, and got to admit, it's not the best. Not an IPA fan, though. Just find them a bit hoppy and stuff. It's kind of a young guy's thing, right? The other thing is 6.5%. You know you're getting old when you bitch that your beer is too heavy. There's too much alcohol in it. You know, I prefer give me something at 4.5% nowadays, and let me drink 4 of them or 5 or 6 of them if that's what I want. But this just one of those knocks you kind of out. Not like the good old days when Led Zeppelin roamed the earth and we bought 12 packs of Bredor, and people who grew up in Canada are laughing right now, and everybody else doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about. So, on this week in history, February 15, 1982, Death Wish 2 soundtrack was released. Jimmy Page's first post-Led Zeppelin work. On the 24th of February 1975, Physical Graffiti was released in the UK. On the 25th of February 1971, the show from the Paris Theatre was, and I believe the Paris Theatre is in London. I have written here in Paris, but I believe it's actually in London, was broadcast on the BBC. And that comes to us on our live, our BBC sessions. On the 1965, to the 26th of February 1965, Jimmy Page released a solo single, She Just Satisfies, with the flip side, Keep Moving. 26, also 1995, Page and Plant kick off their U.S. tour. On the 28th of February 1970, Led Zeppelin appeared in Copenhagen as the Knobs. That's in honor of, that was Baroness von Zeppelin was not happy with them using the name, threatened to sue, whatnot. There's more to the story than that, but basically saw the first album cover with the Hindenburg on it and got very upset and threatened to sue if they went on as Led Zeppelin. So they went on as the Knobs in honor of Claude Knob, who was the promoter of the show. Claude Knobs, also Funky Claude, who was running in and out in the Deep Purple song. On 1988, the 29th of February, 1988, Robert Plant released Now and Zen. Moving into March, on the 2nd of March, 1973, the European tour opens. On the 3rd of March, 1969, was their first BBC recording session for the Top Gear. Again, appeared on the BBC sessions. 1980, on the 4th in 1980, John Bonham appeared on the TV show All Right Now with Billy Connolly. It doesn't say much. He's kind of being a bit silly and seems to be not wanting to talk and lets Billy Connolly handle everything. Just kind of looks dumb. 1971, on the 5th of March 1971, they started a 12-date thank you tour of British clubs. And furthermore, and then of course I got the 5th 71 is Belfast first live performance. So I guess they did a little tour of British. Their show in Belfast was not at a club. I have been where it was. Royal Ulster Hall is not a club. It's across the road from a club. That's where I was. I was at the club across the road. But drinking my 4.5% Guinnesses, just so you know. All right. So there's news. There's news on the Ramble on Radio front. I have I have started a Patreon account as of midnight tonight, February 28th, so 1st of March. You can subscribe to my Patreon. Good Lord, I don't have the link. I should get that up, shouldn't I? It is, let me go, anyway, patreon.com, Brian Gardner. Let me go to the promote. I think this is, there's an embed button, see? Anyway, this is probably not what I need to be doing right now. But look up Ramble on Radio or look up my name, Brian Gardner, once you go to Patreon, and for a chance for the opportunity to support Ramble on Radio. That's what this is about. It's been 10 years, 10 years. I've never asked for money. I'm not really asking for money now. Although I was going to do a fundraising month this month. That's what started this off. If you want to send some money at rambleon at briangardner.ca, knock yourself out. I'm looking to upgrade some equipment, improve my microphone. If you're on YouTube, you'll notice I've lost the headset. I've gone to a SM58 microphone. I'd really rather get a nice desktop microphone. Or a proper broadcasting microphone, and that'll stop the noise I make. That'll help stop that, amongst other things. So the decision was made. What I wanted to do was try and improve the quality of the show somewhat. So I've gone to Patreon. Patreon is an opportunity for you to basically subscribe to the podcast, send in money on a monthly basis. You get a membership, you become a patron is the idea of it. And the Patreon is Patreon. A lot of musicians are using it to sell their music. A lot of podcasts and whatnot are doing this. So there's 3 levels of patron you can come, or 3, and each level would get a feature. There's a special feature comes with this. And I want to start by saying Ramble on Radio, this podcast, as you're hearing it now, will remain free. You don't have to pay to listen to this radio. If you don't want to send me money, don't send me money. Just don't. Don't. It's not necessary. But there's some extras thrown in, and if you want to support, this is a way, and if you want the extra content, this is the way. So here's what's going to happen. Currently, I record on Sunday nights. That will remain happening on Monday. Usually this is there on Monday. This will be the last time the free podcast is out in the air on Monday. It'll now go out on Wednesday or Thursday, depending how long it takes things to roll. What'll happen is it'll be available for a couple of days to Patreons first. So yeah, to the patrons, it'll be available for a couple of days to the patrons first, and then to everybody else. There's 3 levels of patronage. There's they call T for 1, Fool in the Rain, and Whole Lot of Love. And it goes this way. T for 1 is $7.50 Canadian. All money's in Canadian. If you're in the US, that's $5.90. If you're in Europe, it's €4.90 euros. If you're in Britain, it's £4.25. If you're in Thailand, figure it out from there. Or Australia or something. I give best I could. This gives you the early access, 48 hours ahead access to the podcast. It also will give you a full video version. Currently put a video of me on YouTube. The YouTube video doesn't have the intros and the outros. Pain in the butt to line everything up on a program and video program and stuff. That will not change either. But there's also going to be a full video, including the intros and outros, and if I do songs in the middle, or an interview or something, you'll get the entire thing. It'll come off the original audio, the original audio recording, and then the video will be linked over top of that. So it'll be the entire podcast in video form, where you don't have me talking, you'll have pictures or something. So the full video will be available to T for 1 patrons. Also, there will be an audio version of a new feature called Ramble on Radio News Desk. For Fool in the Rain, that's $15 Canadian a month, and that's $11.85 US, €9.75, €8.55 British pounds. You will get all of the above. You get the early access, you get the full video, you get the audio version of Ramble on Radio News, plus you get a video version of the Ramble on Radio News Desk. The Ramble on Radio News Desk will be basically a news broadcast that I will do whenever there's Led Zeppelin news. Whenever there's something to report, I will sit down and make a video and record it and put that up there. There is a sample video of it. There was some news, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I've covered the Page news last week, and so I put together a quick video. It's only a couple of minutes. It'll only happen when there's news, and they won't be long. I have an idea for an extension of that. If it doesn't come up very often that I'm doing one, I have an idea for something else. We'll get there when we get there. Also, you'll get an audio version of a new feature called the Led Zeppelin Bootleg Review. And this does not include, Fool in the Rain does not include video reviews. And I'll explain what that means in a minute. So the final level is the Whole Lot of Love patrons. The Whole Lot of Love patron is $25 Canadian a month. That's $19.50 US, €16.25 euros, or $14.25 British pounds. Less than $20 if you're in the United States. You get all of the above. You get early access to the podcast, full video of each podcast, audio version, video version of Ramble on Radio News, audio version of Led Zeppelin Bootleg Review, and video version of Led Zeppelin Bootleg Review. The Bootleg Review is a feature where I will listen to and react to any new bootlegs that appear. They appear to be appearing about once every week or 2 weeks right now, so it'll be a busy feature for a while, I think. I'll play one, maybe I'll play Days Confused, the entire thing, and we'll go from there. It'll be kind of, if you've ever seen those, a young hip-hopper reacts to Led Zeppelin type videos, it'll be kind of like that, only I'll be reacting to the bootleg. I'll play a couple of songs off it. I may stop in the middle of the song and say, "Ooh, did you hear that?" I may not. We'll talk between each song. I'll introduce the bootleg and tell you where you can find it as well, so you can hear the whole thing. And there is a video up of that from bootleg. Actually, was released yesterday, Saturday the 27th. It's a third source for Australia. Auckland, Australia, 1970. Oh, sorry. There is an Australia, Sydney, Australia, third source that is already up under available for the patrons. But there's also a free one for everybody to see. It's from Australia, 1972. It's video footage, Auckland, Australia, 1972. It's a 5-minute video, guy with a camera in the audience, and they dubbed in audience. Now I won't make an audio version of anything like that because the audio in these is usually either awful or it's dubbed in from an audio source anyway. So there's not a lot of point in responding to the audio. We're really talking about how the video looks. So that's on Patreon. Go to Patreon, look up Ramble on Radio. In the next 24, 48 hours, I will post a direct link on Facebook. I will post a direct link on rambleonradio.com. And you can go to Patreon, and there's a welcome video that explains everything I just said. There's the bootleg review, the video review of the Australia video. There's also the newscast, just samples so you can see what you're getting. I think that's all. And thank you. Anybody who wants to send money or anybody who wants to join up to Patreon, thank you. And if you don't want to join money, don't want to send money, don't want to join, don't want to spend money to listen to a podcast, believe me, I understand. I don't spend money to listen to podcasts either. And thank you anyway for listening. I appreciate it. Oh, by the way, I got an email from somebody a couple of weeks ago asking for the stuff that's not. He's gone through all the available podcasts, and there's about 50 that aren't available right now. I've kind of been slowly through the years trying to get them up, but I'm not very good about doing it. And right now I'm trying to get them the weeks when I don't record this. I'm trying to get those up. But he asked about getting the other stuff. I have not responded to him, but I'm working on it for you. I'll see what I can do. But there's kind of one or two small niggly problems around that. And sometimes I'm really lazy about answering my emails. So, all right, have you been to LedZeppelin.com recently? They have a bunch of new stuff: shirts, hoodies, hats, beanie hats like I'm wearing, only they call them beanies. I call it a toque. Because, when you got a dozen per door, you got to wear a toque. In other words, it's a Canadian thing. A lot of it's based on the Led Zeppelin 3 lettering and Led Zeppelin 3 designs, which is nice. The baseball hat would look good on me. Well, not good on me, but it would look good for wearing on this. But it's $40, and I don't like baseball caps that much, to be honest. But yeah, so it's baseball caps are $40 plus, $41.90. I think they were. Beanies or toques were $40. T-shirts were $41, and hoodies were anywhere from $69 to $90. But it's all new stuff at LedZeppelin.com. Just go and then click on the buy now or merchandise or whatever. Some very nice looking stuff. And then, yes, if you go to the Patreon page and look at the video on Led Zeppelin News, the Led Zeppelin News Desk was reporting that a very strong possibility of a Coverdale page reissue coming. Remaster, not a reissue. It's supposedly going to be completely remastered. David Coverdale himself is saying this is so. He apparently recorded almost everything they did, like from the songwriting right from starting with the songwriting all the way through the process of recording. Apparently he was taking pictures and recording stuff, taking videos, taking home movies. He's got all the concerts recorded on video, all that sort of stuff. So there's a pile of stuff to make a deluxe edition, and he's saying it's going to be quite a good deluxe edition. And he's been sending stuff to Jimmy Page, or he's been preparing to send stuff to Jimmy Page so he can go through and they can decide what they like and what they don't. Now, the interesting thing about about it being a remaster, generally you need, for a remaster, you need the original tapes. It was thought that those tapes were lost in the Universal warehouse fire about 5 years ago now. But I guess not. That's kind of cool. All right, the topic Belfast, March 5th, 1971. As noted, there's a small European tour around this time. They did Belfast and Dublin in Ireland. They never would play Ireland again, by the way. But they did it. And and I wanted to, I kind of had it on my list and then I took it off my list. And then I read something and put it back on the list because it's interesting. I don't know how much I have to say on it. Fortunately, I had all the Patreon stuff to take up my time. But it's very interesting that they played Belfast at this time. What was going on in Belfast at this time? They you've heard of the Troubles. I presume, I don't know. I know some people who listen to this are actually younger, so maybe you don't know. About 1960, somewhere around 1966 to 68, depending on which expert you ask. Trouble broke out in Ireland specifically, Ireland generally, and specifically Northern Ireland. It is known as sectarian or religious violence, but it's not really. It's about Ireland is a split country. The northern part of Ireland, Ulster, is a part of the United Kingdom. The southern part, which is about 2/3 of the country, is not part of the United Kingdom. I think it's now. My history's iffy on this. For the record, I was born in Belfast, so this is part of the reason I know some of this stuff. We left before this started, but I grew up hearing a lot about this stuff because my parents were dead interested, and we had family there. We had almost all the family was back there. So, but I think it's 1917, Michael Collins and all that. There was some rioting, some trouble, blah blah blah, and they eventually achieved independence for the Southern Ireland, or the Irish Republic. That's what it's actually called, the Republic of Ireland. So what happened was, now you have a split country. It's like North and South Korea, or East and West Germany, I guess. In the South, they want it to be, in the Republic of Ireland, they want it to be the whole Ireland. The whole island is a country. In the North, they're generally happy to stay in the UK. However, the division, the political division between we want to stay in the UK and we want to create an entire island country, falls pretty much along religious lines. The Protestants want to stay in England. The Catholics want their own country. So it becomes religious violence only in the sense that that's where the division. It's really a, for lack of a better way of putting it, it's really a real estate play, wrapped up in. But what side you fall on that divide tends to fall along religious lines. I want to say as a coincidence. It's probably not quite a coincidence, but it's got nout to do with now. Listen to me throwing out the Englishisms. It's got nothing to do with religion itself. It's not. Although don't kid yourself. Growing up in a Protestant Irish household, boy, we hate those Catholics. And I grew up. My mom was in Canada for got to be 10 years before she kind of got past that thing. Catholics there was something wrong with Catholics. Till we started bringing on nice Catholic girls. That's what happens. In Canada, nobody cares about that. And so a few nice Catholic girls come in the door and she goes, oh, they're sweet girls. And next thing you know, don't mind the Catholics so much. All right, so let's start with the concert. The concert is, and I know I'm being a bit political on this, and I apologize. I hate being political, but I can't avoid it. And it's one of the things that makes this particular concert interesting. So forgive me that. So anyway, Belfast, March 5th, 1971. Here's the set list. Immigrant Song, Heartbreakers, Since I've Been Loving You, Black Dog, Dazed and Confused, Stairway to Heaven, Going to California, What Is and What Should Never Be, Moby Dick, Whole Lotta Love, with medley including Let That Boy Boogie, Bottle Up and Go, Long Distance Call, communication breakdown, rock and roll, and bring it on home. God, that beer is making me gassy. And like I say, they played a very similar set the next night in Dublin in the 6th, and then they would not go back to Ireland after that. Which is really weird, because going to Ireland at this time was a big, big, big deal because of the violence thing. So the violence really took off in 1969, 70. And it really amounted to marchers. You know, people, they were marching, and another group of people would say, "You can't march here," and start throwing rocks and stuff at them and bottles and show up with clubs and it went on into almost for years and years. Both sides are guilty of this. A lot of the early stuff happened because the Catholics were marching looking to create one country, and they were really looking for some rights. They had less rights in the North than the Protestants had. Protestants tended to be running things. They were a definite majority in the North, and there would be a minority if it was that, and that's got a lot to do with it, right? So they were really looking for civil rights and whatnot, and Protestant groups would come along and throw stuff at them and billy club them, and things like that were happening. And but it goes the other way too. There's the orange parades, which are really, really religious kind of things actually, but they're the Orangemen on the 12th of July, and the 12th of July for years and years and years was outright violence in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, and they would always. My cousin was a police officer there, and he talked about it, like you could not go on holidays over the 12th of July that weekend near thereabouts. But it kind of starts in 1969. 70 it gets worse. In 72 it hit a bit of a peak with Bloody Sunday, which was really just but there's people shot, murdered by British soldiers in some cases, and of course lots of Protestants and lots of soldiers and lots of policemen were murdered. I have an uncle, my cousin is a policeman. His father was also a policeman. They arrested IRAs. They would find lists of like hit lists, and my uncle was turned up on them a couple of times. So it went both ways, and it was bloody and it was violent. And amidst all this, the rock bands stopped coming to Ireland, stopped coming to Belfast very specifically. Beginning in about 1970, there was a whole exodus. There was canceled concerts going into 1970. A week before Led Zeppelin played there, T-Rex didn't. They had a concert lined up that they canceled. The bands were either pulling out of shows or not booking shows. And then along comes Led Zeppelin. And see, this is why I was talking about all this. Then along comes Led Zeppelin. And if you go back and find a few newspaper articles and whatnot from the time, reviews of the show, they're very specific. Wow, we can't believe a big band like this came to play our town when everybody else is. And it was a Friday night, and yes, there was violence. But the violence tended to be downtown, tended to be in the Catholic areas. And the Royal Ulster Hall is actually a little out of town. Now, Belfast's not a big city. It's a city. It's a fairly significant city. But it's geographically not that big. It's probably 15, 20 minutes from one side to the other, so it's, and there's all these sections, and the closer you get to downtown, the worse things tended to get. This is more on the outskirts of town, the Royal Ulster Hall. As far as I recall, as far as I could tell, being there. But nonetheless, yeah, there was violence that night. There was some riots broke out downtown. But they didn't. It was a peaceful evening at the show. It was a big deal to people in Ireland. And it's one of the things I read leading up to this was somebody, and the reason I went back to it, I had actually knocked it off my list of things to talk about because I wasn't so sure there was going to be that much to talk about. And then I read somebody posted a thing, actually posted the clip, Stairway to Heaven, the YouTube clip on YouTube, and talked about being a young person, being 16 years old in Belfast at the time, and how amazing it was that Led Zeppelin came, because nobody was coming, and it was a great night all around. And so it was a big show. It was a good show. If you listen to the bootleg, they played well. Interestingly, if you listen to that Stairway to Heaven clip, what I played right off the hop, dead silence. Like there's no cheering. Whenever Stairway to Heaven comes on, everybody cheers, right? No, not on that show. And first time, and it's not been released yet. So, but no. Nobody was cheering. Everybody was dead silent, which was cool to hear. Robert Plant doesn't seem to have introduced it. They break out of Dazed and Confused. Now, I'm guessing, my guess is maybe he said something. There had to be a bit of a break in there between songs while Jimmy Page changed guitar. So maybe there's edits. Maybe the guy who was recording flipped tapes at that moment. But it's a good show. It's a good sounding show. The band sounds good. Well, in 71, the band sounding good. I almost always say on this era, it's the band at their peak. It's their peak years. But really, when you think about, 70, 71, 72, 73, 69 is good, but it's different because there's only one album, because they're still finding their feet a bit. They're playing more bars and small halls. By 70, especially later 70, they're playing bigger places. 71, they're definitely playing the arenas. They're putting on concerts more than gigs. You know what I mean? And so it's the prime years. Anything from 70 to 75 probably. But 75 can get spotty because of some health issues that turn up on that U.S. tour. But anyway, so if going through the set list, of course, Black Dog, Stairway to Heaven, Going to California, Rock and Roll were all brand new songs. Look, the fourth album wasn't going to be released until November. That's 8 months away. Is that right? Yeah, 8 months away. And so it's a long way off, and yet they're playing 4 songs the audience has never heard. And as you heard, dead silence going into Stairway to Heaven. So it's a cool show. It's an important show historically, because they played Stairway to Heaven first time there, but also because the events around Belfast at the time. And it would be a while before bands came to Belfast. It would not be something that happened in the very near future. It was I'm trying to figure out, there's a light issue going on here. I have a weird camera light. See, this is one of the reasons I'm raising money. I want to get a better camera for the video, get a better microphone in front of me, that sort of thing. All right, it's time for from the collection. This is a weird. Well, this is a cool one actually. It's a book. It's called Ideal Celebrity, Series Number 3, Led Zeppelin. And it was released in 1979. A buddy of mine was sending away for one, and I sent away, and I got him to get me one, basically. I had to go get a money order for him, I remember. And it's loaded up with pictures, it's all just pictures. If you're looking on the, and it's actually got, I'm shocked the cover's intact, because it's got a Jimmy Page poster inside the cover, and it's a cool one, dragon suit. Looks like a 75 shot. And you see here, Zapp's complete 10-year disc history. And the last album shows is Song Remains the Same. Presence and Song Remains the Same. So no In Through the Outdoor yet. And it's just a magazine. It's just one of those things like, the old days they did this. Nowadays they do it for politicians, right? They do it for the Joe Biden edition or whatever. Sadly, now, this is, or when somebody like this dies, this was just something they did at the time. And look at that weird picture of John Bonham. Like, holy crap. It's kind of a cool magazine, and it was cool, definitely cool at the time. Pictures I'd never seen before. Most of the pictures I've seen since, there's nothing really outrageously uncommon in that. But yeah, and I want to show you this one. This is the first time I ever seen that Led Zeppelin has that cool, the lighting, the Led Zeppelin behind them. That's from 1975, by the way, the 75 tour, and Page standing in front of it. So there you go. That's the Led Zeppelin complete 10-year history. The Ideal Celebrity Series number 3, Led Zeppelin, from 1979. And the price is, you see the price on it? $1.50. And I had to go to the bank and get a money order to send $1.50. So that's the way it worked, man. And that's it. That's it for Ramble on Radio, episode 157. Be sure to check out rambleonradio.com and follow Ramble on Radio on Facebook. You can subscribe to Ramble on Radio through iTunes and Google Play. Don't forget to leave a review. It helps their algorithms find the podcast. Also, don't forget to share the podcast with your friends, with your social networks. Listen on Stitcher Radio or Verbal. Download it at I am Brian Dammit on Podbean. Check it out and like the video on Ramble On at Ramble On Radio on YouTube. Thank you for listening to Ramble On Radio, episode 157. And we're going to close out with the rest of Stairway to Heaven, Belfast, May 5, March 5th, 1971.